You're very welcome back to the sewing room. It's a very cold, frosty Sunday evening here in the north of England, and if you've been following me and you've actually watched to the end of my coat making project, first of all I'd like to congratulate you because it was a bit of a marathon. To be honest with you, if I hadn't realised when I started I might not have done it. One thing I'm incredibly grateful for is that I didn't decide to make it on the treadle sewing machine, because it would have been too much, just too much. So thankfully it's finished. Hopefully it will help a few people. Even if you don't make one, you might enjoy watching it. But I'm actually glad it's finished, and I've reclaimed some of the sewing room from all the bits and the mess that was left. And if you've seen the photographs or the video of it partway through the make, you'll see there's bits of pattern everywhere. And so I've cleared a bit of space, tidied up a little bit. So this is, if you've seen it and you've seen the picture of me at the end where I'm out near where we live. We went for a celebratory coffee when I finished it, and my husband took a few shots of me in the coat. That was this morning. I spent the rest of the day doing the film, and it's currently rendering, and so before dinner I'm just going to do a few things. One of them is this. Whoopsie. Oh gosh. Hang on. This. Which is my board, which sometimes doubles as an ironing board and a cutting out board. So it was looking very tired. So I've got a piece of old sheeting that I had that I rather like. It's stripey. So I've cut some of that out, and I'm going to staple that to it. That's one job I'm going to do. That doesn't take long. And then another exciting thing is just to let you know what I've got in the pipeline is this piece of fabric here. What do you think of that? Now, I'll be really honest, I absolutely love these colours, and I wouldn't mind making something for myself out of that. But there's another person in my family, I may as well tell you, it's my mother, and she loves the same colours as well. And she's not, in a not too distant future, she's going to be taking a rather exciting trip to Australia. Now, when I tell you that she's 88, so she's not going on her own, she's got somebody going with her, and she is going to see her oldest friend ever, and that is a lady that she went through the war with. They were two when the war started in Liverpool, and straight after the war, this friend of hers went to Australia as a £10 pom. And if you don't know what that is when Australia encouraged people from our country to go and live there after the Second World War, and there was a skills shortage, so this lady and her family, she went, and that was it. And in all that time, so that's best part of 75 years, she's lived in Australia, and my mother has still lived here, and they've stayed in touch, they've had visits, but they've not had a visit recently. And cut a long story short, my mum's going soon, and she's one of those people, typical war generation, which is, well, I don't need any new clothes, I think I've got everything I need. But one thing she did want was a boat neck top, because that would stop here being too exposed to the sunshine. So I was going to see if I could find one for her, and then I remembered that I have a pattern. And so I'm not going to divert into making clothes all the time, but whilst I've got my head in that area, I am going to run off this top, and that is what it's going to be. I'm going to be running it off, because apart quite differently from the coat project, this I think has got 4 pattern pieces, And again, this is another pattern making company. Well, they sell fabrics in Australia as it happens, but I have downloaded a few of their PDF patterns. It's Tessuti fabrics, just stressing here, I have no connection with them at all, other than that I've made a few clothes of theirs. And I realised I had this pattern. So I'm going to make my mum one of those in this. So that's what I'm going to do next. And all of this is stuff that I want to get out of the way, because what I really want to do is I want to do a bit more quilting. And I'm going to do it on my treadle sewing machine, so that will be next week. But first I'll make this very versatile t-shirt and show you that quickly, and so that gets you up to date. Correction, 3 pattern pieces. I'm just demonstrating here that this fabric has what's called a 4-way stretch, which I always find really confusing. It means that you can stretch it in 2 directions, up and down and across. 2-way stretch is, it will only stretch one way. So if you're buying stretchy fabric, always bear this in mind, because sometimes you can end up making a garment with something that doesn't stretch in the direction you want it. Now the pattern tells you to turn and pin a 5/8 of an inch hem on the neckline of the front and back. I ended up putting clips in. I found it easier. Now the pattern says use twin stretch needle, and I do have one of those, but I have never used it, and on this machine I've never used a twin needle, but I'm going to have a go. I've made quite a lot of stretch clothes, but I've always somehow got around not having to use a twin needle. I've done a zigzag stitch or whatever, but I'm going to try and do this. Right, so having tried to thread my old Husky sewing machine with a twin needle and use it, and about an hour later, after having to unpick 2 rows of ravelled up stitches, I'm now going to carry on with the pattern, and the pattern says to transfer the pins from the front to the back and sew a 5/8 of an inch double line of stitching, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sew a line of zigzag stitches. case you don't know, with stretch fabrics, you can't just sew a line of stitches because you need to have a line of stitches that will move with the stretchy fabric. And anything stretchy I've made before, admittedly I've tended to make things like leggings for my grandchildren and things like that, I've always just used a zigzag stitch, or I've used the overlocker. I've never actually used a twin needle, so I'm hoping that with this project I'm going to be able to do that as well, because I can't get it to work on this machine. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but this is meant to be a quick project, something that I'm doing before I can start some quilting, just to give something a present to my mum. I'm just going to put these clips in where the pins were. I think that's easier than the pins, to be honest. The next stage is to join the back and the front right sides together along the shoulders. So I've pinned them, I've clipped them together again. I think that's easier with this stretch fabric. Just say pin in the pattern, but I'm actually clipping it with these clips. So it says overlock it, which I am doing. My overlocker. So now do the same with the sleeves. So I'll just pin those in place. This is me getting ready to stitch up the arms. So you stitch up the arms and the sides of the top all in one row, as it were. So if you turn the garment inside out and start at the arm, underarm, and put your first pin or clip in there. I'm using clips again, just trimming off some extra threads there. So line up those seams first, put your clip in, and then pin all the way down to the cuff and all the way down to the hem of the top, ready for sewing. After stitching both of those seams, I then overlocked the raw edge at the bottom of the top. And after that, I turned up a hem and secured that with a zigzag stitch. I just turned up a hem at the bottom and secured a hem at the bottom of the garment, and this did require, I used a zigzag stitch, and this did require some pressing afterwards to make it neat. So for the cuffs, I'm going to employ a technique that I've used before on the ankles of leggings and things like that, which is you turn back the hem like this, and then you double over there on the wrong side, and then you zigzag across here to make your cuff. So there's one cuff clipped ready for sewing. I'll just show you again with the other one. So turn in your cuff that you want, like that. Like that. And then fold it in like that. Put a clip in. Fold it like that. Put a clip in. Fold it in like that. Fold that one in like that. So I'm just going to sew it on the sewing machine now with a zigzag stitch. Here it is finished. I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out, and this is a viscose stretch fabric. Feels a bit like stretch cotton, like t-shirt material. It's actually a viscose, and I don't know if you've ever been on holiday to a very, very hot country. I haven't much, but I have been to Western Australia in sort of 40-degree heat, and I found that viscose was a really good fabric to have because it's so cool. And I understand that it used to be a environmentally very demanding thing to make because it's made from trees, wood pulp, and it's processed. So it's a natural fibre, but it's a man-made process. But in recent years, that process has been cleaned up, and it really is a very nice fabric to use. Very easy to sew with if you've got an overlocker or perhaps a zigzag on your sewing machine. So one little thing that I did do, which I think is sometimes necessary on homemade clothes, which is I sewed in a little piece of fabric at the back, a sort of mock label, just to mark the back, because obviously the front and the back of this top look exactly the same. So So that's all my sewing done for now, apart from to choose some nice quilting fabric out of my stash of scraps and make some more quilting.